right, and we are back with another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It is your host, Rob, a.k.a. B-Ball Archives, and once again, I am joined by my main man, AJ.
Me?
Yeah,
me.
Right there.
Hey,
there you are. There you are. Yeah, we got some really great topics, but before we dive into those, shout out to Turning Point Brewery. We've got another delicious beer. This is a beer we've had on a previous episode, and I'm glad that we're bringing it back.
Oh, dude, it's such a good beer.
Yeah.
It's called Sports. It's basically they take a very famous sports drink and mix it into a nice Berliner, and ta-da!
Absolutely.
It is very good. Shout out to Turning Point. Again, definitely follow them on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Was it? What else did we have? That's probably it.
Yeah,
but
all the stuff, all the socials.
And they have events every week. They have New Year's coming up. They got a lot of cool stuff going on. And then what's great is that they also, the best part about the beer community, if you guys don't know, everyone works together, everyone collabs. So they work with other breweries like Martin House, Celestial, False Idol, those guys. So definitely, Turning Point is a great brewery. Love them to death. Shout out to JP for hooking us up. And yeah.
Absolutely.
With that being said,
yeah,
let's start this podcast.
Yes, let's dive on in. So we're going to be talking about some interesting topics. The first one is top 3 pure scorers currently in the NBA. Obviously, there's a ton of really talented scorers. There's a lot of different directions we can go. We're going to talk about the tippy top, the guys that we feel are the best, the most versatile, all of the above. Yep, and then we're going to be moving on into some Victor Wembanyama talk. There's a lot of different conversations surrounding this really talented young man.
There's also a lot of ways to pronounce his name, come to find out.
Yes, Victor Wemben, who's your mama? Like that was one of the funnier ones.
That was my favorite one.
Yeah, that was hilarious. But yeah, it's so many different narratives, and we're going to chat about them. And then we're going to move into our last topic, and it's mainly about Adam Silver and his comments about teams potentially tanking for said player. So, yeah, I think a whole lot of interesting things we're about to dive into, so let's just get it started.
Wait, now?
Right now.
Or after these? No.
So, top 3 scorers in the league currently.
So, I took a little different approach to this. Instead of, obviously, I was, you have your top scorers. I get it.
Yeah.
I took the next generation of players.
Okay.
So instead of going like your established like KDs and those guys, I went with the new breed, I guess.
Okay. So who are you feeling like are the pure scorers that are going to lead us in the future?
Devin Booker's my number one.
Okay.
Devin Booker. I mean, he dropped 70 points.
Yeah.
Granted, they lost, but he dropped 70 points. And right now, I mean, he's averaging, 29 points a game? After his rookie year, he never averaged anything less than 22.
Yeah.
Dude's just a pure scorer. Jump shots, three-pointers, get into the rim. The best part about having Chris Paul is he's going to put you in that position to score every single time. And Devin Booker is just that dude. He has that Mamba mentality. I know he wears Kobe's, and
that's true.
He's a pure scorer.
Yeah.
He is just a walking bucket.
Yeah.
So I got Devin Booker as one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's got an incredibly gifted game from outside. He can score mid-range, can back you down and score like down low in the post. He's got a versatile offensive game and puts up a lot of points. Yeah. I totally agree. He's definitely up there. But I'm still not past guys like KD.
I get it.
I mean, I'm looking at KD in the way he's still scoring the ball. I still feel like he's the best 3-level scorer in the game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with
from
that.
Beyond the arc, from mid range, and then his ability to slash, get to the bucket at 50, 40, 90.
He's been slashing a lot this season so far.
Yeah,
I've seen so many of those dunks. Goodness.
Yeah, and so he's really kind of turning back the clock a little bit. So I have to I can't look past KD when I look at his scoring, because he's actually in my top 3 all-time pure scorers.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's hard to stop a 7-footer that can shoot lights out.
Right. Yeah. It's just he's a walking bucket as well. So yeah, he's got to be up there for me.
My question to you is, how did KD, a boy from the Northeast, end up in Austin?
Well, that's a good question.
Cool.
That's a really good question.
We'll let you guys decide on how that happened. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But when we're talking pure scorers, who else are you thinking?
Ja. It's Ja.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, Ja's so much fun to watch. He's just everything about him. Just I didn't even know where to start with Ja. Like, I mean, I have stats here, but just watching Ja, he's only had a 49-point career high, which is, he's going to get 50 at some point, like probably this year. But he is. What's crazy is that everyone on that team just follows him. Like, he is just the absolute pillar of that organization. And when you have someone like that, like, you're going to see success at some point in time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's no way about it.
Yeah.
Dude puts up points.
Yeah, he's just so much fun to watch. His explosiveness, he's like, kind of on a previous podcast with Westbrook and his athleticism. I think he's on that same level, but with a better jump shot.
Yeah. I mean,
Like a way better jump shot.
I mean, yeah, and we're not even seeing the pinnacle of where he could be. So if he ends up really, really, ironing his game out, it becomes more established on the perimeter, and oh man, we could be seeing MVP Ja in the talks, like, consistently. I know he's already in the talks early on this season. Some people have him at number 1 because of his multiple 40-point games, but I also think there is some room for improvement, which is honestly inspiring.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
It's a great thing for him.
Yeah,
scary as hell for the NBA.
Yeah,
so scary.
That's true. That is very true.
Just be careful when he cuts his dreads. He's gonna be deadly.
He's gonna be even more aerodynamic.
It's gonna be scary.
Yeah, that's gonna be wild. But yeah, so I think that's a great second pure scorer to bring up. I'm gonna bring up a guy who I feel like is a walking bucket as well, Damian Lillard.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like he is one of the purest. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about, is like, I think to be a pure scorer, you have to be able to score at every point during the game, not just when the game's starting, not just in the moments when you're hot, but hey, we need a bucket. Like, can you go get a bucket? And that's Damian Lillard through and through.
His wave goodbye to Paul George, like, or to the entire Thunder team,
cold-blooded. Like,
hey, not only am I going to make this shot, I'm pulling up from, like, the logo, and there's nothing you can do about it. And on top of that, like, just have fun in Cancun.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, oh man, it was absolutely incredible. He is absolutely a scorer. Man, I want to see Damian Lillard be more successful. That's all. But
yeah,
I totally agree with you. He's, man, fun to watch. What's his career high? Like 60 or something like that?
Yeah, it's up there. I don't know the exact number, but man, it's really impressive to watch the way he can score at just any stage in the game. And yeah, he rattles off incredible performances. So for me, when I'm thinking just pure scorers and guys that get buckets,
yeah,
Lillard up there.
I get it.
Yeah,
for sure. My last one is Luka, because it's Luka. Like, he's not the most athletic. Like, compared to Devin Booker and John Morant, KD and Lillard, he is not even close to their athleticism. But he's so good at scoring and scoring in bunches. And the way I looked at these pure scorers is, I was like, who's a microwave? Who can get hot really quickly? And Luka is one of those guys. He can get hot so quickly. We saw it in the playoffs. They went to the Western Conference Finals because he was just dropping all the points. Like, it was very, very impressive. So I got Luka for my 3. Who do you got?
Yeah, that's obviously a great 3.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and round off with a really obvious choice, Steph Curry. Just pure scorer, guy that can get his own shot, play off ball.
Yep.
Obviously, best shooter for me all time.
Oh,
and
it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. When you're talking about 3, I still feel like I would want Dirk from mid range. So like, there is some people that have different shooting skill sets that I would prefer, but
For sure.
But from three and even from free throw, he's the best free throw shooter of all time.
Yeah, he's.
And so it's hard to go against a guy like Curry when you're talking about pure scores.
I'm curious to see what happens with the Warriors this season, because obviously everyone's a year older. Everyone's look at half a step, maybe a quarter step slower.
Yeah.
Clay, after his injury, like we thought, he's mostly back, but he's still kind of in that feeling out stage, I guess. Then obviously with the Draymond Green and Jordan Poole saga, that has a factor in it as well. But at the same time, they have a head coach in Steve Kerr that's resilient. So if anyone can figure out, it's going to be that team. And, you still got Steph Curry. Steph Curry is going to be the anchor of that team no matter what. And, on a previous podcast I mentioned, I'm really curious to see where his career ends up, because he scores, like he's able to evolve his game in so many different ways. So like, he can get his own shot in any way possible, like come off the screen, off ball, spot up, doesn't matter. And so to see his progression and how the younger guys kind of step up and, push the Warriors forward, I think that's a great pure scorer choice for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude just is in an environment, like you were saying, where he can just play like himself, has been playing like himself for so long that he's just comfortable. He can put up huge numbers and it doesn't really look like he's trying.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, like also like just, man, you always it's always fun whenever you were kids and you can just like shoot up shots and celebrate and do those things, but then to see it like on an NBA stage and to see how well he does it and how efficient he is. Like think about 15 years ago, before he was in the NBA, no one ever thought about like transition three-pointers. Like he's the reason why teams are shooting 30, 40, 50 shots, three-point shots a game.
Yeah.
He's literally the reason why. That's why it's no longer like one through five. You're just on the floor. Like it's all Steph Curry. So
yeah,
hats off to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a whole bunch of really great pure scoring options.
It's a lot of points we just talked about.
And I'm glad that we had all different options.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I'm glad that we went two different approaches with it, so we could cover a lot of the scoring greatness that's in the NBA right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's probably a handful that we missed or we were not thinking of, but at the same time, I think if you were to take the top 10 pure scorers, I think all our six of our guys would be on that list.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's a lot of really great pure scorers. I mean, there's just so many guys that are bucket getters in the NBA. Glad we were able to touch on so many of them.
Yep.
Sounds like a perfect segue into a topic where we'll be discussing a guy who could end up being one of the best pure scorers if he pans out.
Yeah,
That's
very possible. There's a lot of hype.
Yeah.
A lot of hype.
Yeah, a young man named Victor Wembanyama. There's a lot of ways to pronounce his name. Hopefully I did it correctly. But he has so much hype around him. He is regarded as the best prospect ever, or just up there with LeBron James. It's crazy.
Is he the best? I mean, I don't know if he's the best prospect of all time, but he's definitely the top European prospect that we've ever had. Has to be.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, all the great European players that we've had, they more developed. They never had this kind of hype. Like, I can't think of anyone that came out of, before the draft coming out with this kind of like momentum, I guess. And we're not even close to the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. As far as European prospects, he's by far the most touted, and he doesn't really have a huge resume.
He doesn't. And like when Dirk came in the league, it was like, oh, he could be a decent player. When Tony came in the league, hopefully he's a good point guard. Like, I can't think of another European player that this far in advance. Like, it was like in July when we started like really hearing his name. I mean, we heard his name, prior to that, but then this summer and everything since then, it's like taking off like a rocket.
Right.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only guy would be maybe Luka, who came in and dropping like 20 points a game, 8
Yeah.
rebounds, 6 dimes his rookie season, which is really, really impressive.
Yeah, but
I think that's honestly, is that better than Wembanyama or even a guy like Paolo, who we're seeing right now come into league, scoring easily over 20 points a game, looking really fluid, but also even better on defense than we all thought.
looking
so like
really comfortable.
absolutely. So there's a lot of really good rookies out there, and I feel like Wembanyama is kind of dwarfing all of those conversations, and it's wild to me. And so like I'm just going to read off some of his stats from last year. He only played 16 games all of last year.
Yeah, because he's a child still.
I know, but even in 18 minutes, he still put up almost 10 points, over 5 rebounds, a couple of blocks. He was really good in limited time. So like everything points to him being amazing, and we all saw that G League Ignite game,
Right.
And dude just went off.
Was that the 37.1?
Yeah, it was 36 points, 11 boards, 4 blocks, 4 assists on really good efficiency.
Yeah.
Like holy shit. And that's like against a lot of people who are regarded as the main cats in that entire tournament, including, Scoot Henderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the spacing in the NBA will allow him to literally do whatever he wants. Like the defense that's being played now is more like, let's slow them down. We're not going to stop them. I think the NBA is now, we're not going to stop. We're just slow you down, because I don't think anyone can be stopped in the NBA nowadays.
Yeah.
Like it's I can't think of anyone that's like, that's our stopper no matter what. Like I just don't see it anymore. And so with Victor, it's just he's Giannis now that Giannis was like 3-4 years ago. Like that's what he is now. My only concern is he's so long and lengthy and kind of fragile-ish. If he gets hurt, like what's that going to do to his career?
Yeah.
And that's my biggest concern with Victor. But outside of that, I mean, he's the perfect example of not stats but eye test. Like if you eye test him, you're like, oh my God, this guy is leaps and bounds the best player on the court. But if you look at the stats, you're like, I don't get it. But eye test, you're like, whoa.
Well, I mean, he whenever he does play full minutes, he puts up really huge stats. But one of the points I wanted to elaborate on, you were mentioning injuries. He actually does have some injuries recently.
Oh, yeah,
There was I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's called like the psoas muscle that like literally runs from your back to your upper leg, that is responsible for how high you're able to essentially do like high knees and like raise your leg up and do explosive moves. And he injured his very, very severely. And the report was saying he may even have like a psoas like syndrome where like it could be something that is reoccurring. So like I mean I'm already seeing some of those kind of injury red flags right there.
Yeah.
And it just the fact that he doesn't really play that many minutes and he doesn't really play that many games. Only played 16 games last year.
Right.
And so he's still so unproven, so young, so raw. I think that we're putting too much on this young guy.
We might be. Well, we all said the same thing about LeBron James, so
yeah. That's very true. I just feel like LeBron was a little bit more of like a guy that he grinded to get where he was, so he was a little bit more built for the barrage that was thrown at him.
The good thing about Victor is that he is playing against grown men. I think that's the biggest piece that we can look at and go, okay, he's doing this not against high school kids or young adults or whatever. He's doing this against grown men trying to get to the NBA, or just their profession is basketball. And when you do it against grown men, it makes things that much more impressive, especially when you're 18 years old. Like it's very impressive. So
yeah,
I really hope it works out. Shout out to Mike Taylor with the Ticket 760 in San Antonio. He coined the term "wanking for Wemby."
Wanking for Wemby.
So at this point in time, it does not look like the Spurs are tanking.
Yeah.
But let's talk about in the future a little bit, like December, January, February. So we'll see what happens. He can help a lot of teams right now, but for me, he's definitely the real deal. I'm just concerned with his potential fragileness.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, that frame is gonna cause a lot of and groaning moments whenever you see him jump and land. You're like, oh, just please not the wrong way.
Yeah, but he can shoot, man.
Yeah,
he can shoot.
And just man, he almost like had that little dream shake in that little pull up. Oh man, it's so ridiculous.
He's basically obviously Giannis right now is starting to get his shot going, but Victor already has a shot, and if he can put on muscle like Giannis, then Nelly.
That's very true.
Nelly.
That's true. Yeah, his development will certainly be interesting to watch. But I want to play a slightly small little game. It'll be who you would rather. And so there's so much hype around Victor Wembanyama right now, and I was seeing people talk about like, oh, I would trade him for this player. I would trade him for that player. Who are you thinking you would trade for that number one pick? Would you trade a guy like KD?
Like after the season? I guess let's put some context. Just so I can make a very somewhat educated. I'm not educated, but somewhat educated, guess on this. But if it's like after the season, Brooklyn did not got swept in the first round again. If you're looking to make that change, I don't know if I would trade KD for a prospect like Victor. I don't think I would. But I would need to see more of Victor. I would need to see him play more. He's playing more minutes. I would want to see him do more this year before he gets into the draft and make sure he's like healthy.
Okay.
But
fair enough.
That's a tough one.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, like KD is that's a tough one because KD is obviously an amazing scorer, but it's you can clearly say that his best years are behind him.
You can save your franchise a lot of money too.
Yeah. Well, exactly. There's a lot of interesting ways to go about it. Like, would you trade Anthony Davis for him?
Absolutely.
Yeah? You think you would Victor Wembanyama for Anthony Davis, no hesitation?
No hesitation.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I love Anthony Davis, but I just can't get over the fact that you're only going to get maybe 45, 50 games from him. And he's not going to get any better. So I would say let's take a chance on Victor if it's losing AD.
Yeah. What about a guy like Jimmy Butler? Would you trade Jimmy Butler for Victor?
Is Udonis Haslem still there?
No, Udonis Haslem is now the president of the Heat. No,
at this rate, he's probably going to be a president at some point.
Yeah, seriously.
Jimmy Butler, that's more of a tough one for me. All things stay the same.
Yeah.
It also depends on who has that first pick too.
Yeah.
Because if whoever has that first
important.
pick, if they're in your division or even in your conference, you're like, I'm not going to give you, or I mean, even if you want to screw someone over and be like, here's Jimmy Butler, like, I wouldn't say on his decline of the career, but I don't know how much more peak he has.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a group of players where I feel like it's like, yeah, I would, no, I wouldn't, and it's like it's such an interesting conversation
because it's like it's a respect thing too.
Yeah,
it's like I need to respect what you've done for the NBA and this organization, but you also got to look out for the future.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
It's pretty tough. Yeah, there was a couple other players I was also thinking about, like, Dame. I think Dame.
I think you trade Dame for the number 1 pick.
Ooh, that's interesting. See, I think I would rather keep Dame. But it would be I mean, obviously I would have to really wrestle with that really hard.
That's a tough one. I'm trying to think of. I mean, I would say like I would say you would have to find a cutoff year to make it relevant to your organization, what you've done. So like for me, I would say if you're drafted like before 2010 and you're one of those top people, you might need to cut ties and make that trade.
Yeah.
Because you're probably paying a lot of money for them. Their contract's probably going to be coming up soon, so you're probably going to have to pay them more money. They're probably not going to give you the best years because those are probably behind them at this point, or pretty close to. I mean, I would. Oh, you would have to sit there and think about all the scenarios.
Yeah,
for sure. And also like I said, who you're trading to.
Yeah.
If you're trading to, if you're in the West and you traded to Orlando Magic, doesn't matter. Like it's fine, whatever. But if you're trading like in the conference, then I mean, like let's say for example, the Lakers end up having the worst record in the NBA. They end up having the first pick. That pick goes to New Orleans.
Yeah.
If you're New Orleans, what do you do?
Yeah, that's an interesting piece because you could either say, hey, we're going to develop Wembanyama, we're going to keep him, or bargain him and get the best player that fits whatever your needs are at that moment because you have the ultimate prospect. Yeah. And so, to me, it just becomes a really dangerous bargaining piece. And, the race to see who gets that first pick is going to be incredible.
It's going to be interesting to watch because obviously right now everyone wants to put on a good show. Like, look at us, we're winning. Yay. Yeah. And then it's going to be interesting to see who starts to sit out, what games start to kind of like, we'll let this one go. Yep. Or, hey, we're down by 4 with, 10 minutes left, like pull the starters. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. And it's going to be hard for anyone to like blatantly see you tank. Like, I mean, you can like make, you can probably like make your conclusions, but it's going to be hard to really like say they're tanking.
Yeah. So, I mean, as long as you keep it close and make it look like an accident. Right. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just playing. But that kind of is a perfect segue into our last topic when we're talking about Adam Silver and his comments about teams potentially tanking. He said the very clear and concise statement that it would disrupt the business model, that teams tanking would disrupt the flow of money. Yep. And that obviously it's not good for business. And so whenever we look at this, he is really, I mean, he's been doing this for a while. I mean, in 2019, he changed the lottery percentages so that the first and the second and the third all share a 14% chance of getting that number 1 pick when it used to be the first got 25%.
Right. So it's like lock.
Yeah, you had
almost a lot.
You had such a huge opportunity. So he's already been putting things in place over the last handful of years to sort of prevent teams from tanking. But I mean, it's going to be really hard and almost damn near impossible to prevent. Like you were saying earlier, it's teams are going to be really elegant with how they're doing this. They're going to sit players out at certain times and and not really give 100% effort in terms of thinking of defensive schemes and things like that. And I hate to say it like that, but he's that good of a prospect where you're going to see a handful of teams do it. And
absolutely, it's just so hard to show. Like, I don't know if you've seen the Netflix documentary. It's I think it's Untold Stories, if I'm not mistaken, but it's about the Arizona State basketball player. Who, I have. You've seen that one, right? Yeah. So how he was working with like sports bettors and like things like that,
and even his own teammate.
Yeah. And the only way that they found out that it was happening was because all these dudes started betting towards Arizona State or the thing. So the spreads swung like 6-8 points for a game, which is a huge red flag. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that in the NBA. Like, how are you going to be like, you guys didn't try hard? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, we tried really hard. Like, we just missed shots.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you're going to really pinpoint tanking. And I mean, I guess it's sitting out players. I mean, but I don't know what Alan Silver's going to be like. You guys are tanking. It's like, prove it.
Exactly. It would have to almost be a financial thing where like teams were purposefully like losing money and putting themselves in a bad situation. I don't see there being like a paper trail, like you were saying. This is just like any hard proof, because outside of finances, it's all just speculation. It would be just like the eye test, like, hey, you guys just weren't giving 100% effort, or your rotation is obviously not the best rotation you could have. So I think it's going to be impossible to prevent tanking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that the worst teams aren't going to have to try to tank.
No.
We're not going to win more than 30 games.
Right.
I was on TikTok saying we weren't going to win more than 20, but it looks like we'll probably win more than that.
Yeah. We're on pace for way more, which is annoying.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, like some days you show up, some days you don't. They're like, I would say we're going to know more. We're going to know more in end of December, end of January. That time frame, we're going to find out because that's when teams are either going to start pushing, teams are going to start gelling more. All-Star break's coming up, so you want to just figure out what your second half of the season ends up looking like, and that's when we're going to find out where the team stands. Obviously, if you see like someone going from like 4th or 5th in the West and dropping like a rock, then yeah, they're probably tanking.
Like the Spurs.
Hopefully we're not even close to that. Hopefully we're 4th now, and then we'll be 7th next week, and then Lakers are better than us at some point.
Oh, I hope that's not the case. But yeah, I mean, I want us both to be at the bottom. If that sounds bitter.
Yeah, because the Lakers are screwed if they're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I know he's talking about promotion and relegation. I don't know how he's going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, it's so hard to implement that, because you run the risk of putting your guys that are big box office guys into a lesser league that's not as televised. Their arenas aren't as large. More people aren't buying tickets and merchandise. There's just a number of financial reasons why this wouldn't make full sense.
Like, could you imagine LeBron James going to like the Rio Grande Vipers?
No.
Like
I could not imagine going to the HEB Arena in Cedar Park.
Yeah.
And going and seeing him against the Austin Spurs.
Yeah, that'd just be ridiculous.
That would blow my mind.
Yeah.
I camera operate those games, so like I would love to go watch him play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, LeBron's not going to go play in Cedar
like,
Park.
what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's no. Yeah, so like there's a lot of interesting elements, and I just now that we're talking about Adam Silver, the upper salary. Whenever he brought up NBA players, he proposed that we're going to have a salary limit, and players fought back on that immediately.
I get that, but I mean, but you also look at the Warriors this year are paying like I think $170 million in luxury tax.
Yeah,
in luxury tax. That means they're exceeding the salary cap.
Yeah.
Like some teams just can't do that. And I love soccer. What I love about it also is that the player goes to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And
it's corrupt.
Oh yeah, a little bit. But it's also there's no salary cap.
Yeah.
Like you can pay him whatever you want, doesn't matter, blah blah blah. I think that's good and bad. Because it's good because you see the best players on the best team every week.
Yeah.
It's bad because those top teams are always going to be the top teams for the next 30 years unless something happens in between there, like Leicester City there like a couple years ago when they came out of nowhere because they played just great soccer altogether.
Yeah.
I am. There needs to be something. The super teams and the luxury tax, and if you're willing to pay it, that's great. But keep in mind the luxury tax was put into place so long ago, where the money that's being made now is nowhere near the money that was being made back then.
Right.
So I think he's onto something. You got to find a way to make the players happy, but also I wouldn't say limit the organizations, but you got to find some kind of happy medium between there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's really interesting. I'm right there with you for so much of it because you have to keep both the organizations responsible and keep them from just absolute reckless spending if the league's going to be profitable. And at the same time, the players are always going to be wanting more. You know, in 5-10 years from now, the players aren't going to be they're not going to be cool with the same amount of money. They're going to be wanting more. And so and the more and more it's a player-driven league, the more and more these conversations are going to be happening. So I hate to say it, but I think that we're gonna see a lockout because of this, and we're gonna see a new agreement. And it I don't know what the new agreement's going to look like. The players are, from what I saw, the report was we will have a lockout before we have a new hard cap, and it was really discouraging to see that, but. At the same time, I understand why that was the sentiment. It's just, man, it's just really tough that we came from a league where people had to work a second job in order to keep the league afloat. And then now we're at a point where guys are literally saying that $250 million for a few years isn't enough. We're fighting for more. Yeah, I mean, not to say that they're not worth that, but damn.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And like the only thing I can think of is the Warriors right now. At the same time, like they are playing within the rules. At this point in time, they are playing within the rules. They've given max contracts and extensions to people they've drafted, and Adam Silver put into place. You can basically have the best chance on keeping your players because you drafted them.
Yeah.
So they're playing within the rules.
Yeah.
But they're also paying $170 million in luxury tax. Holy hell. I think the most Spurs ever paid in luxury tax is like $5 million. Like it's insane. So maybe there should be a cap on luxury tax. Like maybe that's it. Maybe you can have it, but it can only be 150 or 200 million. I don't know what the numbers look like, but
yeah,
at some point, something's going to have to give. And unfortunately, it is a players-driven league, but the owners end up writing the checks, and I think the owners are going to get their way no matter what.
Yeah, that's definitely not the wrong way to look at it. Yeah, it's a whole lot of interesting Adam Silver right there. There's, I mean, a lot. He's doing a lot. He's got a lot to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it no matter who's in the position, they're going to have a tough time. But I mean, I like Adam Silver a lot. I think he's done wonders for the league, especially after David Stern made it a very global league. But I think he's going to end up looking like the villain no matter what. Yeah. I think it's a lose-lose for Adam Silver, whether it's the players are upset, the fans are upset, the organizations. He's just in a thankless position, unfortunately. Same thing with like Roger Goodell and those guys. Like if you're the commissioner of a league, you're just in a thankless position, and you got to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's what we're going to see with Adam Silver here in the next few years.
Yeah, I could not agree more. He's got a job that would overwhelm me, and if I had that job, we would probably have the same amount of hair. But yeah, that's a lot of really great topics on this week's episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. I think that we covered a lot of really good stuff. We talked about scorers, we talked about Wembanyama, we talked about Adam Silver, a bunch of great stuff right there. So I think that feels good. Yeah,
feels good. But let's end it on another positive note.
Let's do it. I'm gonna go ahead and say one of the most positive things about the Spurs organization is that we are number one in assists. We are sharing the ball. I think that you brought up on another great on one of the other episodes a great point that we're seeing almost 2014-esque ball movement. So this is amazing.
It's great to see them. It's great to see the Spurs share the ball because no one is selfish. So it's like, I have a good shot, but you're wide open. Or it's like, I'm gonna take a pump, 2 dribbles, everyone collapses. There's Poto, like right there.
Beautiful.
It's really fun to watch. And I mean, if we keep up with these 30 assists a game, and if we're sharing the ball like that, it's gonna be really hard to beat us.
Yeah.
And which sucks because obviously we won't be in the victor sweepstakes. But at the same time, like, can't be mad. Like,
no,
can't be mad about it.
No. I mean, even if we finish second, third, hey, we still got that 14%. So I'm all about it. So hey, yeah, good things about the Spurs. We're moving the ball well. I think that's a good positive way to end it.
And also shout out to the Coyote. Coyote doesn't get enough love, in my opinion.
Coyote, that's why we got him up in center right there. Yep. Absolutely. Great topics today. Yeah, it's been your boy Rob, a.k.a. B-Ball Archives. Once again, I am joined by my homie AJ.
And shout out to Motive Bowling. They're my bowling ball sponsors, but I pay for my bowling ball. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, then there you go. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode. And once again, it's always go Spurs,
go!
Woo! I'm going to keep that.